Hello. Today we'll be talking about the glossopharyngeal nerve and as well as the vagus nerve, that is the ninth and 10th cranial nerves. So we'll be dealing with the main functional components, cores, branches and applied aspects of the glossopharyngeal nerve. Similarly, we're having the functional components, cores, branches in the neck only and applied aspects of the vagus nerve. So first we'll take up the glossopharyngeal nerve. It's the nerve of the third branchial arch. It's mainly motor to the stylopharyngeus muscle and secretomotor to the parotid gland. It is gustatory to the posterior one-third of the tongue, including the circumvallate papillae. It is sensory to the pharynx, tonsil, posterior one-third of the tongue, carotid body and carotid sinus. So coming to the functional components, we have the special visceral efferent, general visceral efferent, general visceral afferent, special visceral afferent and general somatic afferent. So here in this figure, so especially see the upper figure which shows the arrangement of nuclear columns in the brainstem of the embryo. So both the basal lamina and the alar lamina are seen. Both are separated by the sulcus limitans. So try to identify the sulcus limitans. So in the basal lamina, mainly consists of the motor columns, motor cell columns. We have the somatic efferent, that is SE, special visceral efferent SVE, general visceral efferent, that is GVE. Similarly, we have the alar lamina, which consists of the sensory columns. So general visceral afferent, that is GVA, special visceral afferent SVA, general somatic afferents GSA and special somatic afferents SSA. Similarly, the lower figure shows the nuclear derived from the each column. So you can see the nuclei which is derived from each column, and there you are having some numbers. So the numbers indicate the cranial nerves connected to these nuclei. So coming to the functional components, that is the special visceral efferent and general visceral efferent. So in special visceral efferent, we have the nucleus ambiguous, which supplies the stylopharyngeus muscle. General visceral efferent, mainly concerned with the inferior salivatory nucleus. So from here the fibers are going to travel via the glossopharyngeal nerve, its tympanic plexus, and from there you are having the lesser petrosal nerve, and through the foramen ovale, this lesser petrosal nerve gets relayed in the otic ganglia, and postganglionic parasympathetic secretomotor fibers are going to travel via the auriculotemporal nerve to supply the parotid gland. So this we have already dealt in the previous chapters. Then we have the general visceral afferent, that is the general sensations, that is concerned mainly with the touch, pain, temperature. So from the pharynx, posterior one-third of the tongue, carotid body, carotid sinus, through the peripheral process of cells to the inferior ganglia. So central processes convey these sensations to the nucleus of the solitary tract. Similarly, we have the special vessel afferent. So these carry the taste sensations. So they are peripheral process from the inferior ganglia. So the taste sensation from the posterior one-third of the tongue as well as the circumvallate papillae are carried to the nucleus of the solitary tract. Last but not the least, we have the general somatic afferent. So similarly, we are having the general sensations, touch, pain, temperature and pressure. So from the posterior one-third of the tongue, tonsil and pharynx, these are carried to the inferior ganglia, and from there it is conveyed to the nucleus of the spinal tract of trigeminal nerve. So with this we have completed the functional components. So this glossopharyngeal nerve, it arises from the hindbrain. So it is attached to the posterolateral sulcus of the medulla oblongata by 3 or 4 filaments. So this nerve lies just above the rootlets of the vagus nerve. It's an intracranial course. So this is going to pass forwards and laterally towards the jugular foramen. So mainly it is going to leave to the middle part of jugular foramen along with the 10th and 11th cranial nerves, that is the vagus and accessory. Then it descends between the internal jugular vein and internal carotid artery. Later it winds around the styloid process on its lateral aspect, and then it lies in between the internal carotid as well as the external carotid arteries and reaches the side of the pharynx. So here it gives off the pharyngeal branch. Next it enters the submandibular region and breaks up into its tonsillar and lingual branches. So at the base of the skull, it contains two ganglia, that is the superior and inferior ganglia. The superior ganglia is a detached part of the inferior, and you can see it gives no branches. The inferior ganglia is larger compared to the superior, and it gives off a communicating branch as well as a tympanic branch. Next we are going on to the branches of the glossopharyngeal nerve. So we have the tympanic branch. So this is a branch of the inferior ganglia. So it's going to enter through the tympanic canaliculus, which you are going to find between the jugular foramen as well as the carotid canal. Then it enters the middle ear where it forms a plexus called as the tympanic plexus. From the tympanic plexus, you have the lesser petrocillar which comes out to the middle cranial fossa, then enters into the foramen ovale, to the foramen ovale to the infratemporal fossa, so it gets relayed in the otic ganglia. So this is called as preganglionic parasympathetic secretomotor fibers. Once it gets relayed in the ganglia, it is called as postganglionic parasympathetic secretomotor fibers, which travels via the auriculotemporal nerve to supply the secretomotor fibers to the parotid gland. Next we have the carotid branch, which supplies both the carotid sinus and carotid body. Next, the third branch, which is called as the pharyngeal branch. This forms the pharyngeal plexus. So which the pharyngeal plexus is mainly contributed by the pharyngeal branch of this glossopharyngeal nerve, the vagus nerve and the sympathetic fibers. So through this plexus, it's going to supply the mucous membrane of the pharynx. Next, the tonsillar branch supplies the tonsil, and this joins the lesser palatine nerves to form the plexus and supplies the soft palate as well as the palatoglossal arches. Next, we have the muscular branch, that is, it supplies only one muscle, that is the stylopharyngeus muscle. The lingual branch, this carries the taste and general sensation of the posterior one-third of the tongue, including the circumvallate papillae, which lies on the anterior two-thirds of the tongue just in front of the sulcus terminalis. So coming to the applied anatomy, so lesions of the glossopharyngeal nerve causes absence of secretion of the parotid gland, absence of taste from the posterior one-third of the tongue and circumvallate papillae, loss of pain sensation from the tongue, tonsil, pharynx and soft palate. Then we have the referred pain, so where pharyngitis may cause pain in the ear. Next, to test the glossopharyngeal nerve, so sensations of taste, so this can be tested by the following method. First, the mouth should be rinsed and the tongue dry before testing. Then apply the substances that are salty, sweet, sour and bitter to the posterior one-third of the tongue. Next, we have the gag reflex. Tickling the posterior wall of the pharynx, there will be reflex contraction of the pharyngeal muscles. So with this we have completed the glossopharyngeal nerve. Next, going on to the vagus nerve. So this nerve is very vague. It has a very extensive course. So you can see the course in the head, neck, thorax and abdomen. So apart from this vagus nerve, you have the fibers of the cranial root of accessory nerve, which are also distributed through this. So vagus nerve bears two ganglia, that is the superior ganglia and the inferior ganglia. The superior ganglia is rounded and lies in the jugular foramen. The inferior ganglia is cylindrical and lies near the base of the skull. Coming to the functional components, so special visceral efferent, general visceral efferent, general visceral afferent, special visceral afferent, general somatic afferent. So here in this figure, the upper figure shows the arrangement of nuclear columns in the brainstem of the embryo. So both the basal lamina and alar lamina are seen. Both are separated by the sulcus limitans. The basal lamina, which is depicted in red, consists of motor cell columns, that is somatic efferent SE, special visceral efferent SVE, general visceral efferent GVE. Then we have the alar lamina, where it's depicted in blue, consists of sensory columns, general visceral afferent GVA, special visceral afferent SVA, general somatic afferent GSA, special somatic afferent SSA. Similarly, the lower figure shows the nuclei derived from each column. The numbers indicate the cranial nerves connected to the nuclei. So coming to the functional components of the vagus nerve, we have special visceral efferent and general visceral efferent. So special visceral efferent, it arises in the nucleus ambiguus, that is branchiomotor. So this supplies the muscles of the palate, pharynx and larynx. General visceral efferent arises in the dorsal nucleus of vagus. So this is preganglionic parasympathetic. These are distributed to the thoracic and abdominal viscera. Postganglionic neurons situated in the ganglia lying close to the viscera to be supplied. Next we have the general visceral afferent and special visceral afferent. In general visceral afferent, so sensations from the pharynx, larynx, trachea, esophagus, abdominal and thoracic viscera are carried to the inferior ganglia of vagus. Central processes convey to the nucleus of tractus solitarius. Some terminate in the dorsal nucleus of vagus. Next, the special visceral afferent. That's the taste sensation of the posteriormost part of the tongue and epiglottis are carried to the inferior ganglia. Central processes terminate in the nucleus of tractus solitarius. Next we have the general somatic afferent. Sensations from the skin of external ear are carried to the superior ganglia. Central processes terminate in the spinal nucleus of trigeminal nerve. So this 10th cranial nerve or the vagus nerve arises from the hindbrain. So it is attached by 10 rootlets in the posterior lateral sulcus of medulla. In its intracranial course, the rootlets unite to form a large trunk. So this leads through the jugular foramen, that is the middle compartment. So we have the glossopharyngeal, vagus and accessory. All the three leave through the jugular foramen, that's the middle compartment. It is joined by the cranial part of the accessory nerve. Initially it descends within the carotid sheath. In between, so it lies in the carotid sheath, we can see, I think we have come across in the carotid triangle. So it lies between the internal jugular vein and internal carotid artery. Then it lies between the internal jugular vein and the common carotid artery. And at the root of the neck, it is going to enter into the thorax. So similar to glossopharyngeal nerve, it contains two ganglia, both the superior and inferior ganglia. So superior ganglia, it is rounded and lies in the jugular foramen. So this gives the meningeal and auricular branches. The inferior ganglia is cylindrical and lies near the base of the skull. It gives pharyngeal, carotid, superior laryngeal branches. So coming to the branches, so mainly in the head and neck. So the jugular, at the jugular foramen, we have the meningeal and auricular branch. And in the neck, pharyngeal, carotid, superior laryngeal, right recurrent laryngeal and cardiac branches. So this left recurrent laryngeal nerve, it arises from the vagus in the thorax. It crosses the left side of the arch of aorta, then loops around the ligamentum arteriosum and reaches the tracheoesophageal groove. So coming to the applied aspects. So this nerve is tested by comparing the palatal arches of both the sides. Paralysis of each nerve may cause loss of arching. So uvula may be pulled to the normal side. So in case of paralysis of the vagus nerve, we have nasal regurgitation, nasal twang, hoarseness of voice, flattening of the palatal arches, and cadaveric position of the vocal cords, apart from dysphagia. So irritation of auricular branch of vagus nerve. So this is mainly caused by earwax or by the syringing process. So there will be persistent cough, vomiting or death due to cardiac arrest. So stimulation of the auricular branch of vagus nerve causes increased appetite. So irritation of recurrent laryngeal nerve due to enlarged lymph node causes cough. Injury to superior laryngeal nerve. Voice is weak due to paralysis of cricothyroid. Initial hoarseness which later disappears due to compensation of the opposite cricothyroid. Injury to the recurrent laryngeal nerve. So there will be permanent hoarseness of voice on laryngoscope. So affected vocal folds does not move. So when both the recurrent laryngeal nerves are paralyzed, so voice is lost. So coming to the assignment, so describe the functional components, cores, branches and applied aspects of the glossopharyngeal nerve. Similarly, describe the functional components, cores, branches in the neck and applied anatomy of vagus nerve.